Well, hey, Movement Conversations family. Hope you're doing well. It is good to be with you today on this wonderful Wednesday. The weather has dropped. It is colder outside now. It was about, excuse me, I'm sorry. It was about 25 degrees outside last night. We were covering up plants and covering up stuff growing in the yard, all kinds of stuff, trying to make sure it didn't freeze last night. In the tail end of a remodel project right now that I'm hoping is going to be done within the next few days. We're going to be wrapping everything up and finally get some stuff moved into the new part of our house. So we're excited about that. So my schedule's kind of been wonky with the podcast, trying to navigate a lot of things right now, especially going into Easter. So you have to forgive me if it's not a consistent every week. I will do my best to put one out every week, but I'm not quite sure what day it'll be. Right now it's Wednesdays because that's what day works best. But thank you for hanging in there with us. Thank you for your subscriptions. Thank you for signing up or whatever you do with it, becoming a subscriber, I guess you will. Thank you for that. That means a lot that you would take your time out of your busy schedule to listen, and people, they depend on this every week. It's just like pastoring. People depend on a word, and you depend on this podcast. And I'm so grateful that you, of all the podcasts out there, you could take time to listen to this and be a part of this conversation. So today I want to talk about something. Lately we've been talking about pretty intimate stuff, about pretty real stuff, and today's no different. And if you can for a moment, I want to just let the guard down, and I want to just not necessarily be on here for the pressure to perform for the sake of a podcast, but I want to talk about with no filters and really just a real conversation today, just me and a microphone and a camera and a few notes I have here. But I want to talk about the pressure people don't see. Now, maybe you're a pastor, maybe you're a leader, you could be a small group leader, you could be a mom, a dad, whatever you are, a job CEO, businessman, whatever it is. There is a pressure and there's a side to leadership, ministry, life that people don't often see. I was very blessed growing up because if my parents ever struggled financially or if we ever had a tough time, we never saw it, because they were the leaders and they led like that. And there were things that we as kids didn't need to see. I'm not one of these people that think kids ought to know what parents make and kids shouldn't know the finances. There's a lot of kids that know a lot of stuff about their parents they shouldn't even know, but we want to be, for the sake of being vulnerable, sometimes it really exposes us and it puts pressures on kids that kids don't need. Kids, the only pressure kids should need is whether or not they're getting red Kool-Aid or grape Kool-Aid, and whether or not they can play outside today, not worrying about whether mom and daddy can pay the bills or not. That's not the pressure they should deal with. That's another message for another day. But there's a side of life and there's a side of leadership that people don't often see, because most people see the results, they see the platform, and they see the consistency. They see the wins, but they rarely see the weight that is behind it. They don't see the internal conversations that a lot of us have with ourselves on the way home from preaching on Sunday morning. I can't tell you how many times I've left on Sunday morning, felt like I preached my heart out and just really was emotional the whole way home because I felt like a complete failure because I didn't get the results that I needed to see naturally. I know the results took place spiritually, but maybe I didn't have as big an altar call as I thought it was going to be, or maybe they didn't respond to the offering like I thought they would, or maybe they didn't respond to the time of worship like I thought they would, or whatever it is. And I know that sounds, well, Pastor, you shouldn't think like that, but we all do. We all do. It's all on one level or the other. I don't care what it is, whether it's a job, whether it's ministry, whether it's life. You may throw your kids a birthday party, and because everybody didn't show up, you may think you're a failure. That's all the pressure behind it. And people don't always see the moments where you had to strengthen yourself before you could. Like, I remember the time praying for people to keep their lights on and praying for people to get financial breakthrough, and I was struggling myself financially. They never knew it, but I was. And so a lot of times people don't see the quiet battles that you have that never made it to the stage or made it to a post. There are some people that are too honest about their life. I think they do stuff on social media in different places to get attention, but we shouldn't. There's people you need to talk to get help maybe, but vying for that attention, people just need that attention sometimes. So let me say this off the bat. This is not one of those attention podcasts. I just want to be open with you so that you can understand that it's okay to feel the pressure and how maybe to navigate that pressure somewhat. But it's okay when people don't always see the pressure, because when people what people celebrate in public is often sustained by what you carried in private. And so there's been many a battle that we have fought in prayer, especially in the ministry, that people never saw. They got the public celebration, but they never saw the private battles that we had to go through to get them to where they were. And I don't care what it is, whether it's a job, whether it's a ministry, whether it's a life, whatever it is, there is always a private cost behind a public calling or a public position, whether it's the president of the United States, the King of England, or a pastor pastoring a 10-member church in the middle of nowhere. There was always a private cost behind that public calling. And the truth is, I think for a lot of people, the stronger you look on the outside, the more disciplined you've had to become on the inside while nobody else was looking. It's just a fact. And if we are honest, Some of us have learned how to carry pressure so well that nobody ever even thinks to ask if you're okay. Now, I won't go into the nitty gritty of that because I think it's a dangerous place to be. Sometimes we have to be honest and be vulnerable and tell people, hey, I'm struggling right now. I'm dealing with some stuff right now that I need some help with. But sometimes people have become so strong on the outside that you look at them and say, man, their life is perfect. But the truth is, they're probably having some internal struggles. It's the pressure that people don't see. And the truth is, if you're honest about it, just because we carry the weight well doesn't mean it's not heavy. I've seen bodybuilders that can lift tremendous amounts of weight, and you're like, man, they made that look easy. But the truth is, the weight was still heavy. They just learned how to position their body and to carry the weight so that to them or to you, it looked easy, but to them, it was heavy. And the more you come into that thought about that, about the pressure that people don't see, silence doesn't always mean strength. It often means you've just learned how to manage the weight. And I know that's a tough place to be in because we live in a society where everybody thinks you got to talk about everything, but sometimes you just got to be silent, not say nothing. Wait upon the Lord. Sometimes there's not a whole lot to say. And so I want to talk about some of this today. I want to talk about the pressure we don't see. There's an external pressure that people know about, but then for pastors and leaders and for maybe just people, whatever it is in your job, in your home, in your marriage, there is a pressure that people don't see. And there's a pressure that people may never see. There was a weight that Jesus carried that those disciples knew nothing about. They saw bits and pieces of it, but they were not with him in the wilderness. He even told him one time, he said, can't you watch and pray for just a little while? So the weight that he carried wasn't always, some of it was visible, but a lot of it wasn't even visible. Because at the end of the day, and please hear me on this, there is a hidden cost of carrying. One of the most overlooked parts of leadership and responsibility is the cost of carrying. I tell people this all the time. Matter of fact, I sent a text out last week about this. I said, in 20-some years of ministry, I can still see all the people that were connected to this house that moved on from this house. There are some people that leave. There are some people that they left or whatever it was. Some people left on good terms. Some people left on bad terms, whatever it was. Some people just moved on to different ministries, moved out of state. People just leave. It's a fact. I don't know why we try to negate the fact. We think everybody's going to stay with us, but that's not the case. People leave. People leave natural relationships, and people will leave spiritual relationships too. It's not what I'm talking about right now, but I'm saying this. 99% of the people that left this ministry in 20-some years, I visually still see I can still see the conversation. I can still see their face, and I can still hear the phone conversation. I still know it. I know it's there because there is a hidden cost of carrying, because when people leave, most people can leave and they can leave, but we have to often carry the weight of that when people do leave or when people move out of the state. When my student pastor left a few years ago to move to the Philippines, there was a weight behind that. Because it wasn't just him moving away. I mean, it was a good friend that was leaving. And so there was a cost of carrying that was there, because when you deeply care about people, you don't just lead people, you feel them, you know them, you carry conversations long after it's over. In other words, what if I could have said something different? What if I could have done something different? And so you think about situations and you think about conversations often when nobody else thinks you are thinking about them anymore. And when you care deeply, you don't always clock out emotionally, you carry it with you. That's the deal. You don't, when something happens to you, and it affects you, and when you care deeply, it's not like you just can turn it off, but you carry it with you. And the truth is that for leadership doesn't end when the moment ends. It lingers in your mind. When you're laying in bed at nighttime and there ain't no press message being preached and nobody's around you applauding you, nobody's there, and you're thinking, man, what could I have done different? What was it about this or what was it about that? And so it lingers in your mind. You've gone through a divorce, you've gone through a child leaving home, or you've gone through a job displacement, or you've left a church, or you're a pastor of a church, or whatever it is. And it lingers in your mind long after the situation happened. You don't just, I know a friend, I got a somewhat close friend. He just lost his wife a week or two ago. She passed away, and it was by suicide. And I saw him today, and my heart just went out to him. And I've been thinking about it ever since I saw him, because when I looked at him, you just could tell like he was hurting bad. And when something like that happens, it's not something you just get over. I don't know that you ever get over certain things, because there's a cost to carrying, and you don't just carry that responsibility. You carry people you've connected to that responsibility. And over time, that kind of emotional investment, it creates a weight. It does. I didn't realize the weight of pastoring until I got into this thing about 15 or 20 years. And I haven't realized the weight of it probably till the past 3 years. You know, these young guys coming up or these guys starting off pastoring and they love it because all they think they do is preach. That is and I was the same way when I first started. I thought preaching was it, but good gosh, the emotional weight you carry. You know, when you got staff members on and money's got to come in and finances have got to come in and budgets have got to be met and life's got to be met and family's needs have got to be met and all this other stuff. And you're like, the weight of it is just very tremendous. And some people don't ever consider the weight of that. And it is an emotional investment. You know, I'm not just invested in my kids now. Now I'm thinking about my staff members' kids and my elders' kids and my leadership team's kids and other people in the church. And when they go through, I'm going through. And the weight of that is just, it is heavy sometimes. It is true what he said, you know, when one of us hurt, we all hurt. And when one of us is going through, we all go through. And the challenge is that you can be doing something meaningful and still feel, you don't know how many times I have got up to preach and have preached so heavy. And it'd be some of the most powerful services I've ever been in, but I'm talking like have just been heavy at the same time. Like the weight of it is like weights that my wife and my kids and my kid and my spiritual kids, I guess you'd say, and family members, and they don't even know the weight of it. They don't even know the weight because it's hard to articulate that weight sometimes because it's not a weight. Somebody say, well, let me help you out. There's just certain things you can't give to somebody else. You can't give the weight of loneliness to people. You can't give the weight of failure to people. You can't give the weight of leadership to people. There are just some weights you have to bear by yourself. But here's what I'm finding out, and maybe that's you. Purpose doesn't eliminate pressure. It often introduces it. And so for me personally, whenever I feel those weights coming on, it's because I know that God is maybe shifting some trajectory in my life. Maybe God is changing some stuff in my life, and maybe God's trying to up me a little bit and change my thinking on some things. So God's like, I want to take you here, but I got to develop this in your life. And sometimes the only way to develop that is by pressure coming in your life, because it's possible to be effective and exhausted at the same time, but still be performing on the level that you need to perform on. And I know that's a mouthful because we think we can't be, but you can. I have been exhausted and effective at the same time. My wife made a good point Sunday morning. She was talking about Elijah, and you have to learn to wait and to rest and to listen. God gave Elijah some time to rest, but then you got to get up and go. There's some stuff you got to do. And we can take a break, but at the end of the day, the devil's not stopping. The world's not stopping. Scenarios aren't stopping. Catch your breath, get you a bite to eat, but then we got to roll. We got to make some things happen because impact and weight often grow together at the same time. So the whole time you're making impact, you're getting weight also. And I don't care. It don't matter how many people you got around you, how many people you got helping you. Don't matter how many errands and hurries you got holding your arms up. There is a certain weight that you can only bear as a leader, a pastor, a father, a mother, a boss, whatever it is. There is a weight that nobody else will ever see. And you have to learn how to navigate that weight and bear the pressure, but also be able to perform at the same time. And I know people tell you, well, that is the way it is. I don't care what people tell you, that is the way it is. There are times I've had to get up and preach crying before, and there are times I've had to get up and preach, and I've had to do, and I've had to lead, because that's what I signed up for. There are not many days that I get to decompress from it all, because even if I'm 1,000 miles away on vacation, I will be on the other side of the country in the fall of this year on vacation. I can be 10,000 miles away, but I still feel the weight of the ministry, still feel it. And that's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because it reminds me how connected I am to it. It's like Paul said when Paul was locked away in prison, he talked about how he would love to be with them because he carried them with him. He knew that he felt them there. So let's think about this. When strength becomes expected, when you're known as the strong one, and I know you probably heard, you're so strong right now. You're so strong right now. Pressure shifts in a different way. People stop asking if you are okay because they assume you are. And that's where you have to be careful sometimes, because you need people to check on you. You need people to make sure you're okay. But if sometimes you are overly strong, they'll stop checking on you. And they lean on you because you've proven you can handle it. But I say this very carefully, but just like people need to be able to lean on you, there are people that you need to be able to lean on as well. And I'm going to be honest, I'll be straight with you about it. The more dependable you become, the less people check on you. It's a fact. Because consistency can quietly turn into expectations. And people lean hardest on the ones who rarely bend. So I want you to think about that level in your life. If you are one of those people who are real strong, people will lean on you, and you have to be okay with that. And so now you feel the pressure to maintain that image, and that's where it can get tricky. So you keep showing up, you keep producing, you keep holding it together. But somewhere along the line, you have to stop and say, okay, I need a moment. If they're expecting me to be this, I have to pull myself together. So now I've got to spend some time with the Lord, and I've got to get myself focused, and I've got to get myself ready, because there have been many a Sundays I knew that I was walking into a crowd and I had to bring the word of the Lord that day, but I did not feel it. But I knew people were depending on me. But I also knew that's what I signed up for. There were probably days I didn't need to preach because I was spiritually drained, but I knew the Lord would give me the strength, and He did. But those are also the moments I had to go find somebody to talk to and say, look, I need help. I'm drained right now. Can you pray for me? Can we go get a cup of coffee? Can you just pour life back into me? Because here's what I'm finding out. When your strength becomes your identity, honestly, it'll start feeling like weakness. And you can carry strength publicly and still be stretched privately. Some of the strongest people in the world I know, I know strong people that are just mentally strong, not talking about physically strong, just mentally strong, amazing leaders. There's no way they're not stretched privately. There's no way. Elijah just called fire down from heaven, got one word from Jezebel, went and hid up under a broom tree and said, there ain't nobody with me. Let me die right now. Strong, but stretched privately. Because being strong doesn't mean you don't feel the strain. It means you've learned how to manage the strain. And sometimes when we mismanage that strain is when we find ourselves up under a juniper tree asking the Lord, hey, take us out of this place because I'm struggling right now. And that's okay. I told you this is a real podcast. This is honest today. Because sometimes the pressure is just to show up. Life doesn't, listen to me. Life doesn't just slow down because you feel overwhelmed. I told my staff today, we're about to hit a busy season. I said, stay prayed up, stay fasted up, stay ready. If we need to renavigate, if we need to reprogram, if we need to move things around, let's do it. But this is a busy season for us. And we know going into the next few weeks, it's going to be busy. I probably got something every night during the week, every day, meeting here, this here, that here, program here, this. But I've known going into this week, I've known going into the next few weeks what it was going to be like. And it doesn't slow down. It's not slow. Easter's coming. Good Friday's coming. The summer's coming. Spring's coming. It's all coming. It ain't slowing down because we feel overwhelmed. It's coming. Responsibilities keep moving. People still need you. Your family still depends on you. Life still depends on you. Decisions still have to be made. You still have to decide stuff. And there are days when you don't feel like showing up, but you do anyways, and I applaud you. But here's what I ask of you. Responsibility doesn't pause when your energy does. So take a moment to recharge. And there are days that you will not feel ready, but you show up anyway. And I'm going to be honest, I think sometimes that's where growth happens because it pushes you a little bit farther. And consistency is built in moments when quitting would feel justified. I have wrote 2 resignation letters since I've started pastoring. Stood in the pulpit and read one out loud to an empty congregation. About 6 months into pastoring, about a year into pastoring, because I was like, this ain't for me. And when I read the letter, I just felt silly because I was like, man, if I've ran with horses and if I've moved in this thing and I've become wearied already, if I've moved with footmen and they've wearied me, how can I contend with horses? Churches get bigger, they think it doesn't get easier. It doesn't. I got more kids. You get more kids, it'll be better. You get a better job, better money. All that. It's not that it gets better. The pressure just changes the way it comes at you. And I'm going to tell you this, consistency is built when moments of quitting feel justified. So in other words, I want to quit, but people are depending on me. I'm going to be honest. I've never taken long sabbaticals, and I don't knock guys that do it. I think it's a great idea. But my problem with sabbaticals is I knew this is what I was called to do. And here's my problem with sabbaticals to an extent, and I am not knocking them because I'm taking a couple of weeks off in the fall of the year this year. I have a tough time with extended sabbaticals and I'm going to just be honest, guys that take 3 and 4 and 5 month sabbaticals, I struggle with that simply because I watch my dad work 40 plus hours a week his entire life, physically harder than what I work right now, cutting meat on his feet all day long, dealing with customers, dealing with people all day long. He got 2 weeks vacation a year, 3 weeks vacation a year, worked so hard his legs were full of varicose veins, probably didn't enjoy what he did. He didn't get a sabbatical, but he worked. Same thing with me. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy preaching. It's the leadership part, I think, that is frustrating sometimes, but I think that doesn't always justify a time to disconnect for the sake of disconnecting. And that's why for me personally, I struggle with it. And maybe one day I won't be that way, but I struggle with just walking away from the ministry for 2 and 3 months for the sake that I need a break when I know this is what I signed up for. Maybe I need a break from the leading side of things, and maybe I can put people in leadership. But he called us to preach the gospel. That's our calling. That's what we're called to do. People are depending on the word of the Lord. And I'm not knocking that. Don't get me wrong. And there may come a day that I look back and I eat those words and I may need a sabbatical. I mean, I think there are seasons that it's needed when pastors honestly have mental and physical breakdowns and they are on the verge of completely just checking out mentally and emotionally and just physically. I think somebody should have stepped in long before that happened. People that were close to them knew they were checking out. I'm telling you right, they knew it. They gave signs. The husband did, the wife knew it, somebody knew they were checking out. Somebody knew it. Somebody knew it. But I think the problem is sometimes we don't want to call that stuff for what it is. And I know I went down a rabbit trail right there, but I think there's some days you just have to show up. I want to be the person that attends my church the most dearly. I want to say that when we get up and preach attendance and we get up and preach, being in the house of the Lord and showing up and serving, and then we're not here ourselves, that's hypocritical. I want to be the one with perfect attendance in my church if I can help it. You see what I'm saying? So I say that to say this: consistency is built in moments when quitting should feel justified. Take breaks, take seasons to disconnect. But I think we have to be careful about doing that because I think sometimes we disconnect too much. And sometimes in the consistency and the pressure, that's where the maturity shows up. And maturity is staying committed even when your emotions are inconsistent. You don't have to feel strong to function strong. Some of your greatest growth will happen in seasons where you simply refuse to quit. I know that was a lot, but man, there was a lot I wanted to say there. I'll probably get some emails about that, but whatever. I said I'll eat my words one day if I need to. If I need to, I will. So expectations. Let's talk about expectations for a moment. Expectations will wear you down. They always do. Expectations are the heaviest pressures because they often go unspoken. You feel them without saying them. You carry the weight without realizing it. Look, the podcast is one of them for me. There are a lot of weeks that I just don't feel like doing a podcast, but I have to do it. Not because I'm made to do it. I'm not getting paid to do this. This isn't monetized for me. But there are people that'll call me during the week. They'll email me, "Hey, when is that podcast? I'm waiting on that." And to me, they need it. They need that word. They need something. And so sometimes expectations are there and people don't even realize it's there, but unspoken. And the reality is sometimes it's the unspoken expectations that can create a very real pressure. And you feel responsible for things no one actually assigned. Nobody assigned me a podcast. I just decided one day I felt the Lord, I thought this was what we should do. And so that brings the podcast. That brings the expectations. So we got a lot of stuff going on in this church right now that necessarily aren't a made or break for the ministry, but they're expected. You know what I mean? We need them here. And sometimes I think we have to be careful with those hidden expectations, because if we're not careful, we'll start living for the expectation instead of living for the excitement. And so for me personally, I know what is an expectation. I know what's my assignment, and I know when those two get blurred. And if the podcast or whatever else I'm doing ever got in interference, I love to evangelize. I love to preach out. I love to go to churches and preach. But I tell people up front, I don't miss Sunday mornings because unless it's just a moment that I just feel like I need to preach to my people on Sunday morning. There's been times that I've got asked to go preach places, but I had stuff going on here that I was needed as a pastor more than I was an evangelist, because I'm called to be a pastor. You have to be careful trying to roll in these dual roles in life, trying to be a pastor, leader, a motivator, an inspirationalist, and all this other stuff. My number one calling, besides being a husband and a father, is to be a pastor. And there are people that need the word of the Lord. They need what God's saying, and they need me first. And so my first assignment is pastoring. And there are times that I've had to lower the expectations of other stuff because pastoring was the most important thing at that moment. Because not every expectation, there's things that I do that's not part of my assignment. The pressure is understanding what's my assignment and what's the expectation of people and myself and others. Because you can be busy meeting expectations and still be disconnected from purpose. I don't care. You can preach 1,000 times in 1 year, or you can lead, or you can do whatever. You can be the greatest boss in the world, and you can lead a Fortune 500 company. But if your family's falling apart, all you're doing is fulfilling expectations and not fulfilling your assignment. I have done my best over the years, and there's times that I've failed, but I've never wanted to sacrifice my family on the altar of ministry. I did not want my kid growing up despising the church because her daddy was always busy. So we do our best to include our daughter in everything that goes on in the ministry. We'll bring her to this, we'll bring her to that. And there's times she wants to go home, or there's times that we've had an event or something and she wanted to play at home and it wasn't necessary for her to be here. So guess what? She stayed at home, and that's okay. That's all right. That's all right. Because you can be busy meeting expectations, but still feel disconnected from purpose. And trying to satisfy everyone. I know this thing seems all over the board today, but I hope I'm giving you some nuggets. Trying to satisfy everyone will slowly disconnect from what actually matters in your life. So there is a reality of the silent pressure in life, and some of the heaviest pressure you will ever carry is internal. It doesn't show up in obvious ways, but it's real. It's the kind of pressure you process quietly while everything on the outside looks fine. Why are you so quiet right now? Because I'm processing stuff. You don't have nothing to say right now? I'm processing stuff. It's internal. And the heaviest battles are often the ones that nobody hears because you can look steady but still feel stretched. Silence doesn't mean there's no struggle. It just means it hasn't been expressed yet. And this is where people, and I'm speaking personally, where we're not careful, will begin to feel isolated. And isolation doesn't always come from being alone. Sometimes it comes from feeling unseen. And sometimes the quietness is because we want people to reach out to us because we need somebody to talk to. Other times we're trying to process it, and you can be surrounded by people. I tell this all the time. I've got hundreds and hundreds of people around me. Very few get my heart. Not because I'm not offering it out, because you have to be careful who gets that, because not everybody can handle the inside and the real side of things. And so you can be surrounded by people, but still feel like you're carrying it all by yourself. I don't know that that goes away. I think we just learn how to balance it, and we bring people around us that can help us navigate those moments. Because pressure will always reveal your foundation. Pressure has a way of exposing what you were built on. The Bible says the wise man built his house upon the rock and the foolish man built his house upon the sand. Pressure reveals what comfort tries to hide. You don't really know what your foundation is until trouble hits, family. You don't really know what I've seen people that had a good foundation till the money got funny and it all crumbled. I've seen people that had a good foundation until their marriage got difficult and it crumbled. I've seen people that had a good foundation. They found out their kid was pregnant and it all went to hell because they didn't know what to do because their foundation was not built on the right stuff. Oh, my kid was a great ball player until something happened. Or my son was a great in academia until something happened. Or my marriage was great until something happened, and so on and so on and so on. It don't matter what all happens if your foundation is right. That's what makes the difference, because what you depend on becomes clear when the pressure increases. And when the pressure rises, your habits show up. That's the kicker right there. When the pressure rises, your true habits show up. And whatever you run to under pressure is what you rely on. So when pressure hits, what do you run to? Is it pills? Is it alcohol? Is it food? Is it pornography? Is it lies? Is it movies? Is it TVs? Is it the gym? Whatever it is, what do you run to? Is it that friend? Is it that who do you run to? What do you run to? Do you run away from something? But what do you run to when pressure hits? Because whatever you run to is what you rely on. Because pressure doesn't change your priorities, it exposes them. And your response to pressure reveals your level of trust. So when trouble hits, boom. When problems hit, boom. When life hits, when all this stuff begins to hit, what do you run to? We should run to the Lord because he's a strong tower and where the righteous are saved. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we run to the Oreo cookies. Sometimes we run to the phone line. Sometimes we run to the internet. Sometimes we run to the bottle, to the pill, to the whatever it is. Sometimes we run just to get away. But what do we run to? What do we run to? That's where your priorities are revealed, is what you run to. But I think what you have to do, and I know I'm all over the board, it seems like today, but I hope I'm helping somebody with this. You have to learn where to place the weight. Pressure isn't always the problem. Placed pressure is. You have to decide where the weight's going to go. You have to decide because you got to do something with the weight. It's not that it disappears. It's not that it's going away. Pressure carried alone becomes overwhelming, but pressure surrendered becomes strengthening. And so what you hold on to is going to wear you down, but what you release will free you. And you don't manage pressure by controlling everything. You manage it by trusting the right place, putting it in the right place, casting all your cares upon him because he cares for you. This is where surrender becomes very real. Surrender is not giving up. It is placing things in their right place. Trust is built when you release what you cannot control. Lord, I can't do this anymore. I'm giving it to you. God doesn't ask you to carry it. He asks you to bring it to him. So it's not that the weight, Lord, take the weight away. That's the wrong prayer to pray, I think. Lord, show me how to displace the weight and where to put it. Because the weight is teaching me something, but I need you to help me carry the weight. You're strong, but you still need support. That's what I've had to learn over the years, is that I'm strong, but I still need support. You can be strong, but people sometimes they'll go through financial issues or through marital issues or through life issues. Maybe they've been involved in a wreck or something like that. And sometimes they have to get the law involved or a lawyer involved or whatever it is. In other words, they have to get somebody involved that knows more about it than they do. You're strong, but you still need support. Somebody that's sick, they're strong, but they still need support. Somebody that's just had a baby, they're strong, but they still need support. A marriage that's struggling, it's strong, but it still needs support. A pastor's strong, but it still needs support. The fact is that the stronger you are, sometimes it's more important to have the right outlets in your life. Because strength without support eventually turns into strain. And being capable doesn't remove the need for connection, because you were not designed to carry everything in isolation. Elijah sat down and prayed that he would die because he was all by himself. David said, I had no man to care for my soul. Healthy people know when to lean in And hear me on this, and I'm getting ready to wrap it up, but strength is not refusing help, it's knowing when to receive it. And the right support, it doesn't weaken you, it sustains you. And even though we think isolation is a bad thing, sometimes isolation magnifies the pressure, but connection helps you process it. I've given you quite a bit today, but I hope somewhere in this gobbled up rabbit trail of a podcast, I just gave you a lot. I hope that there was a rabbit trail that you could go down that would maybe help you a little bit this morning or this afternoon or tonight or whenever you listen to this. And let me leave you with this. You don't have to pretend that pressure isn't real. You don't have to carry it perfectly. What matters is where you place it. It matters where you place it. It matters where you put it. And ignoring pressure doesn't remove it. It just delays the impact. And what you refuse to release will eventually weigh you down. So if you're feeling pressure right now, it doesn't mean something's necessarily wrong. It could just mean you need to place it in the right place. Pressure isn't always a warning. Sometimes it's a sign for growth. And so you don't feel pressure because you're failing. Sometimes you feel it because you're carrying something significant. You're just carrying something big. So I say it to you like this. Pressure isn't a sign to quit. Sometimes it's confirmation that what you're carrying in life really matters. Hey, this is Chris Hall with Movement Conversations. If this has spoken to you, if it's helped you, if you have leaned into it, if you think somebody else might need it, do me a favor. Like and share this podcast. Let somebody know what's going on. Help us build this audience. It means the world that you would tune in. I do my best to put out content every week, somewhere around 30 minutes. Today, you got 35 minutes. That's pretty good. I love you. I'm praying for you this week. Stay busy, stay safe. Keep on moving up. God's got something for you. When pressure comes on, just know that you might be carrying something great. Until next week, this is Movement Conversations with Pastor Chris Hall. I'll see you next week. Have a great, great week.